Good morning. I'm Miss Mary from the Stark County Public Library. Welcome to Toddler Time. Today I have some activities for toddlers, but also some things that preschoolers or kindergartners could do. Have you been keeping warm on these cold days? Well, today we are going to talk about an animal that lives where it is very cold. We're going to be talking about polar bears. And polar bears live above the Arctic Circle up at the North Pole. And sometimes people think polar bears live where the penguins are, but that's not the case. So, first thing we're going to do is we're going to do a flannel board story, and you can do this with me. It's about polar bears, and you need to put your hand up, move those fingers, get your fingers awake, and wave. Are your muscles awake? These are the fine motor muscles, the small muscles, and you use these when you color with crayons or markers or scissors. All right, here is our story. It's called 5 Little Polar Bears. Here's your 5 fingers, and let's count the polar bears. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 little polar bears playing near the shore. 1 tumbled in. Then there were 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 little polar bears swimming in the sea. 1 chased a seal. Oh, this polar bear is hungry. Then there were 3. 1, 2, 3. 3 little polar bears. What shall we do? 1 went swimming. Then there were 2. 1, 2. 2 little polar bears playing in the sun. 1 took a nap. Oh, so sleepy. Then there was 1 little polar bear, not very old. Where's my mom? Here comes the polar bear's mom. And let's give the polar bear something to eat, because the little polar bear is hungry and cold. There's a fish for the polar bear. We've been sitting for a while we did that. So now we're going to stand, and we're going to exercise the muscles that you would use when you go outside and play or go to the playground. And those are your big muscles or your gross motor muscles. So we will move this out of the way. And let's see, can you make your arms go up, bend down, shake them fast, slow. All right, everybody ready? Polar bear, turn around. Polar bear, make no sound. Polar bear, dance on your toes. Polar bear, touch your nose. Now, we are going to do some fun science experiments. Move the books over a little bit. And we need this. These are our pretend icebergs. So if you do this science experiment at your house, you will need a container and put about 1 inch of water in the plastic container and put it in your freezer, although you could stick it outside right now since it's been so cold to freeze the water. So you need your icebergs, You need something to put your icebergs in, and that's why I used this cookie sheet. You also need some polar bears, and I have some finger puppet polar bears, but you don't have to use those. If you have Play-Doh, white Play-Doh, you could make a polar bear out of white Play-Doh or self-hardening clay, however you want to do it. You also would need something for a sun, you know, like the sunlight. So you could use a flashlight, or a few minutes ago when I did the flannel board story, I had a sun, so you could use that. Now, you need some food, and polar bears eat seals. So I have a little seal. All right, so now we have everything that we need to take and do this science experiment. All right, here's our big iceberg, and we'll put this polar bear up there. There's another one up there, and there's another polar bear right there. Now, these polar bears are happy. They're on their iceberg. You know, they have a little bit of space to move around. Oh, this one fell down, so this one's just going to go down in the water and go swimming. So these polar bears are fine on that iceberg. Well, as global temperatures get warmer and the sun shines, or flashlight, or the sun, something happens to the icebergs. The icebergs start to melt. Now look at this one. This one will see it's not as big as that one, so there's not as much space. So if these polar bears wanted to travel over to this iceberg, if there was just one, oh, that would be okay, because there's enough room for that polar bear. But say this one wanted to come over, and this one wanted to come over. Uh-oh, look how crowded they are. Their habitat, their home, there's not too much space because it's melting. And oh, look, here comes a seal. Oh, I'm hungry, I want that one. No, I want that one. Grr, that's my food. That's my food. No, it isn't, it's mine. So there's more competition for food. And so that could be a little problem there if they don't have as much space. Now, depending upon the age of your child, you could, if you have a young child, they could just play with the little polar bears and move them around and swim them around. But if you have an older child, this could be a breaking off point for discussion more about solar warming and global warming. Another problem that you would have when the icebergs are melting is if there was a mother polar bear that wanted to make a den so she could have her babies, she needs to have some ice that's thick. And when it's melting, there's not as much thick ice. So we'll put that science experiment away, and I have another one. Look what I have. Can you see it? It's my polar bear, and someone gave me that polar bear for a gift. Now, if you look carefully at that polar bear, could you guess what color the skin is? Probably you would say white. And I can see why you would say that. It looks like a polar bear would have white skin. But actually, that's not the case. We are going to talk about the color of a polar bear's skin in this science experiment. A polar bear's skin is actually black. And you could use Play-Doh again. You need that. You need scissors. You need a straw. Or actually, you need more than one straw. So we'll move this polar bear out of the way. We'll move this out of the way so everybody can see. And this Play-Doh is supposed to be the polar bear's skin. So a polar bear has black skin. And the fur of a polar bear is white and it's hollow. If something is hollow, it's like this straw. See, you can look down through it. Now, The hairs of the fur on the polar bear are hollow. And what happens is when the sun shines, the sunlight goes down on the fur and it helps keep the polar bear warm. And when the light from the sun hits the white hairs, it's reflected or set back, and it makes the polar bear look white. After you get done doing this, you can play with the Play-Doh. It doesn't matter how many straws you put in there for the polar bear's fur. So we'll move all that out of the way. And I have some special stories about polar bears to talk about before we go. The first one is Polar Bear, What Do You Hear by Bill Martin Jr. It's illustrated by Eric Carle. Are you familiar with Brown Bear, What Do You See? Well, this book is a lot like that. It has repetition in it. Polar Bear, what do you hear? I hear a lion roaring in my ear. Lion, what do you hear? I hear a hippopotamus snorting in my ear, and so forth and so on. Here's our boa constrictor. And you go all the way to the back of the story, and it shows the children dressed up in the different animal costumes. This has gorgeous illustrations, and the repetition is good for early language development. When we would go to daycares and outreach programs, this is one of the stories that we would use for very young children. Babies loved this story. Peekaboo, Polar Bear and Friends. It's illustrated by Francesca Ferry. And you have all the different animals here. It says, Peekaboo, do you want to play with me? Peekaboo, who is hiding? And you can talk about, what animal is this? And you put it down, and it's a seal. And it goes on, and here, oh, we have our polar bear. I have to show you that one. And you go all the way to the back. And this is fun because it would show your child's face. It says, you. Another polar bear story we have is Perry, and this is from a series by Paola Opal. These books are great for toddlers. They're comfortable for them to walk around and hold in their hand. Perry's a little polar bear that does not know how to swim. Perry's mother is trying to teach him how to swim, and he's scared. He's scared of the water, but something happens in the story. Look at this, there's that iceberg, and he's floating away. Do you think that Perry will learn how to swim in this story? We'll check the book out to find out. Another book we have that's a perfect bedtime book is called Hush Little Polar Bear by Jeff Mack. It shows the polar bear at the beginning. Hush, little polar bear, sleep in the snow and dream of the places where sleeping bears go. Well, there's lots of different places. We show the polar bear on the whale. This one is a fun one. You can see the polar bear's nose, and there's that butterfly up there. These illustrations are great in this book. And then at the end, the very end of the book, there's the girl asleep, and there's the little polar bear. Perhaps you noticed the polar bear cutout over there. As a reminder, if you have not done our winter reading program, it's going on until February 26th, so you can still do that, and you can still do our story walk. February 1st will be the date of the new Take and Create bags that we have for all ages. Can you guess what the toddler will be about? The toddler craft will be polar bears. Everyone have a great day and keep warm. Bye.